Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening and welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard with you here until 6:30pm to take a look at the sporting action taking place on the Isle of Man this weekend. So, coming up tonight, two promotion hopefuls meet in Division 2 this Saturday as part of the latest Manx footballing fixtures penned in across the weekend. After a week's break, Douglas and Vagabonds return to action in rugby tomorrow, whilst we have the latest instalment of the Manx Shield competition in the north of the island. And in hockey, 4 teams now remain in each of the 3 mixed cup competitions, who could be booking their places in December's finals this Saturday. That is all to come this evening. Welcome once again to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. I'm Rob Pritchard here with my usual assortment of guests to take a look at the football, rugby and hockey action taking place on the Isle of Man and beyond this weekend. And in Manx football, well, the frontrunners are really starting to appear across the respective divisions. Can they hold their ground, or will others behind them start to make up for lost points earlier in the campaign? Well, as usual, I'm joined in the studio by Tony Mepham. Tony, very good evening to you.
Good afternoon to you, Rob, and just looking out the window there, it's pretty dark, isn't it? But we were just talking about the weather conditions. Hopefully it's looking good for tomorrow. I know we've had a bit of rain this week, but today's been okay. Tomorrow forecast not too bad, so I'm not expecting to lose too many games.
That's what we hope for anyway at this
Fingers
point of the
crossed.
season, don't we? With the fading light as well, and
Correct.
the fact that naturally the worse weather, shall we put it, starts closing in over the next couple of months. Any games going ahead is always a good thing.
It is a great thing, and don't forget as well that with 2 o'clock kick-off tomorrow, all the games but one. That's the St Mary's game that kicks off at 1:45. So don't forget, don't turn up too late. Now winter's starting to get a bite, isn't it? Pitches start to sort of cut up a little bit, and credit to everyone who's working on the pitches.
Absolutely. Let's dive straight into it then. As Tony has rightly pointed out, games now kicking off at the earlier time of 2 o'clock after the clocks went back last Sunday. So just bear that in mind, whether you're playing or whether you're spectating. Games kicking off at 2pm with one exception, which is in the Canada Life Men's Premier League, which we'll start with. And we'll start with the early kickoff. 1:45 at the Bowl, and that sees St Mary's taking on St George's.
Yeah, and we've just been talking, Rob, haven't we? No FC Isle of Man games, so there's a lot of FC Isle of Man players playing tomorrow, and St George's are going to capitalise on that one because Sean Quay, his suspension's finished, so he'll come back in, but Jacob Crook plays, which is fantastic. You've got 1 or 2 other players in there. Ben Wilkinson, 1, which helps. Johnny Quirk is back in. He's not FC Isle of Man. But when you look also in there, you've got Sam Kane, Morgan Naylor, Ashley Higginbottom, were FC Isle of Man last year. It just shows you how strong they're going to be tomorrow. So I wouldn't, if I was a St Mary's fan, be getting too carried away with all this. Yes, St Mary's will probably have Jack McVeigh in their squad, but they're pretty strong right the way through as well. We'll wait and see if Kieran McNulty plays because, he was sitting out last week, but on paper it should be St Mary's to win. They've shown enough, I think, to me this season so far that they mean business in this league.
Very well, let's take a look at the other games of the Canada Life Men's Premier League. Apart from that St Mary's St George's game at 1:45, as Tony's mentioned, all games kicking off at 2 o'clock. Up to the north of the island, Ayr United continued their perfect start last weekend. They're now 8 wins from 8 at the top of the Premier League, and they host newly promoted Braddon tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tough day for Braddon, I think, because there's some physical people in that Ayr United team, and I don't mean in a bad way. They're just big guys to deal with, and Sean Kelly's one of them. Nick Hurt, if he plays, they use their strengths, and there's others right the way through. I haven't heard any team news from either team, but Braddon, promoted side, it's always going to be difficult. They've had a relatively good start. I know they're third from bottom, but they've got those 6 points, and I just think at the moment, the way Ayr are playing and the form of Danny Oram, they're going to take the victory.
Very well, then out in the west of the island, St John's United, they're going to be hosting Laxey. Tony, who needs the points more in this?
It's a tough one to say, really, because I know Sam Brame was happy enough last week with the performance, but Laxey were absolutely disappointed with the way it all went against them with St Mary's recently and, other games as well. And Tina Garvey, I would think, I've noticed he's available, so he'll probably come into that team. And Johnny Palmer will have Brodie Patience back in there, will help things. Ethan Hawley, I noticed, was in the FC Isle of Man squad midweek, but he'll be able to play in this. So it looks really good for Laxey, but St John's, what's the forward line going to be? you know what it's going to be. It's probably going to be Callum Taggart and also Dean Leese. He'll come in there, so that'll cause problems. Laxey's defence isn't the quickest. I found that out when I witnessed the game against St Mary's, and that's something they've got to try and sort out. But I think Laxey have still got enough strength there to win it.
Well, in terms of up toward the top of the table, Ramsey trying to keep up the pressure on Ayr United at the top. They've got the long journey down south to Croyt Lowy tomorrow up against Russian United.
Yeah, and you just wonder, with Russian, are the players going to be back in playing for them as well? I'm thinking of Alex Maitland, Furu Davies could come back in. Mikey Williams was in the squad last week against Union Mills, but only a sub, so he's not 100% yet. But, he's still a great player to be able to bring on. But Ramsey, they're playing with confidence. I know they've dropped some points of late, but they've still got, I think, a real good squad there, and they can impose themselves on this Premier League. I know they're third at the moment. They had a good season last year, and I expect Ramsey to beat Russian.
Very well, and then out in the west again, it's Peel, the defending champions, up against Union Mills.
Yeah, Union Mills is so hard to predict at the moment, Rob, and I watched them last week, and Luke Booth scored an absolute belter, but they're just not right at the moment, and I don't know what it is. I know Nathan Yates has moved up into midfield, and when you look at Dylan Campbell at the back and Owen Quayle, they're two good centre-backs, but they're going to be at their best, or they're going to have to be at their best against Peel, and Taylor Andrews has been in great form, scoring plenty of goals, and I think Dan Bell knows that one. I'm going to go for Peel to win.
And running off the Premier League this weekend is a big fixture at the bottom of the table. In fact, Bala Fletcher, where Douglas Royal, they host bottom of the table Moran. The bottom two sides, Tony, although we are still in the early throes of the season in the grand scheme of things, does look like a big fixture for these two.
You say early throws though, Rob, but this will be Douglas Royal's 9th game and Moran's 10th. So they're nearly at the halfway stage of the season for themselves, because 12's halfway. And Moran at the moment, the big problem is they can't score enough goals. When you look at the goal difference between the two sides, there's minus 15 extra for Moran against Douglas Royal. And Douglas Royal have got players who can score goals. So I think Michael Fitzmaurice's team will start off as favourites. But it just depends. Keir Morris, Dave Brewer, I'm sure will try and get the best out of the team. But I think it's going to be too much to ask for Moran to take the points here. And that's why I go for Royal.
Very well. Then we move into DPS Limited Division 2. 5 games penned in across the division on Saturday, including what looks like could be a very tasty fixture over at Billygoat Park, Tony.
Yeah, that's the one you're sending me to, but just in case that goes, I've got a backup plan. We'll see what the weather comes in tonight, but that Foxdale against Donkin, it's an absolute belting league at the moment, this Division 2, isn't it? Because Foxdale, top of the table, I don't know the last time they were in that sort of position. 21 points, 2 points clear, and a game in hand on Colby. But then when you look down, you've got Castletown only played 6, Onken only played 6. They're sort of breathing down the necks of them. And I just think tomorrow Onken might be too strong. I've heard a whisper Steve Whitley's going to play for Onken tomorrow because he's registered for them, so he can play. And if he plays, that could make a massive difference. So I'm going to go for Onken to win.
Well, let's take a look through the other four, and we'll just start with the game taking place down at Colby between Governors Athletic and Castletown. And Castletown, you've already mentioned, may still be in the mix as well. They've still got a couple of games to catch up. Yeah,
they're always going to be in the mix. And with Nathan Cardy in good form, you've got Alex there as well, Crawley. They're two good players. And when you look at Danny Lane as well, the three of them, they're all over the place, and it's just finding which is the best position to play them all. But you've got to go for Castletown, even though Governors have picked themselves up, scoring goals now, but unfortunately they're conceding too many when they're taking the advantage, scoring them in the first half and then conceding plenty in the second half, and that's costing them. So Castletown to win.
And in the other 3 fixtures, we've got Ramsey Youth Centre All Boys against Maloo. We've got Jims hosting Douglas and District, and Douglas High School All Boys hosting Pulrose.
Yeah, Ramsey Youth Centre against Maloo. I'm going to go for Ramsey Youth Centre. I think they've sorted out the problems that they had. They had a terrible start, but they're climbing up the league now. They're in 6th place, but they've only got 7 points. Bit of a gap between the 6th and the 5th place. Jims against Douglas and District. I think Jims will win this. I think D&D lost a player a couple of weeks ago, right? Stevenson, I think it was, who's gone. So that won't help them. So Jims to win. And Old Boys against Pulrose. This one is still at Blackberry Lane, but they were going to have conversations because that pitch is struggling a little bit. But the league tables, even though sort of Old Boys had a poor start, they're mid-table. Pulrose at the bottom. You have to go for Old Boys.
Very well. Let's take a quick look through the combination leagues this Saturday. We have 5 games in Canada Life Combination 1.
Yeah, Braddon against Ayr. You have to go for Ayr United. They're second in the league. Laxey against St John's. I'm going to go for Laxey, even though St John's for the last couple of years, Rob, have had a really good combination side. They've raided that team to bring them into the combination. Ramsey against Rushen will be a cracking game. Ramsey are 4th. Rushen have had those 2 defeats. They're 5th. But I'll just go for Rushen just to win it. Union Mills against Peel. Another good game, but Peel got a lot of good young players in there. But I'm going to go for Mills to win that one. And Moran against Douglas Royal. Moran's combination doing okay, mid-table. Go for Moran just to take it.
Very well, and last but certainly not least on Saturday, 5 games in DPS Limited Combination 2.
Yeah, and in this one, Douglas Athletic against Michael to win that. The other games I've got is Castletown against Governors Athletic. Castletown will be too strong, I think, and Castletown take the points. Onken against Foxdale. I'm going to go for Onken there. Maloo against Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys to win. And Douglas and District against Jims. I'm going to go for Douglas and District.
Well, that's the Saturday fixtures. Moving into Sunday, and we've got 2 games once more on Sunday in the Canada Life Women's Floodlit Cup.
Yeah, second fixtures for the Canada Life Women's Floodlit Cup. Peel against Castletown. You know, Peel seem to be the team to beat this season. I think they've just got the edge at the moment against the Castletown team that, the players are learning each game and getting better, so good luck to them. And Onken against Douglas Royal. Terrific scoreline, I thought, for Onken. I know they lost 1-0 to Corinthians last week, but I think that's really close and shows you where they've moved on. And I'm going to go for Douglas Royal just to win it, but don't be surprised if Onken gets some points out of this.
No mean feat, that result from Onken against
a
a very successful Corinthian side over the last couple of years. And also on Sunday, let's not forget, we have 2 games in the Masters football.
Yeah, Governors Athletic against Onken. Onken's last game was at 19-0. Darren Hudson now has transferred to Ramsey. And if he's going to play Ramsey first team, that's going to take him out of the set up for Onken. But Onken have just signed this week Kieran McNulty on a dual registration. So it gets worse. Ayr against Douglas and District. Ayr have got 1 or 2 players missing as well who are playing first team, unfortunately for them. But I'm going to go for Ayr against D&D and Onken to beat Governors.
Very well. Just quickly before we let you go as well, just for clarity, we did this last week as well, but just in case the weather just causes a bit more food for thought for people, what time roughly would we expect pitch inspections to be carried out just to check that games can go ahead tomorrow? Yeah,
I think a lot of them come in, Rob, between 10 and 11. Earlier the better, and certainly some clubs will go up there at sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock, and the phone's flying then as well. And Kevin gets in the office about 9, so we'll get the information round. But, anyone who sort of knows of any postponements, either get in touch with me or the office.
Wonderful. Tony Meppen, thank you very much indeed.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, after a break last weekend, the Isle of Man sides involved in UK competition returned to action this Saturday in Manx Rugby. Douglas are on the road once more in the Regional 2 North West, while Vagabonds, also on their travels, will be looking to add to their strong start in Counties 4 ADM Lancs Cheshire. There's also Ravenscroft Manx Shield action on Ireland once again tomorrow, and here with all the details is Dave Christian.
We start at the top of the tree, which is the English Clubs Championships. Birkenhead Park versus Douglas, going to be a tricky one for Douglas this. They're down near the bottom half of the table. It's quite tight down there, but Birkenhead Park are the first of the big sides near the top that they've met up with. Kick-off over there at Birkenhead is at 1:30pm, and Douglas have taken a fairly strong side. Team news out this morning, everything looks good, and there's one new name on it as well, Jack Loughnane, not a name I'm familiar with. Other than that, it looks like a fairly strong team and very similar to the team that beat Burnage a couple of weeks ago at Portashee. Guy Barons, who did so well in that game, he's got a start on the wing. Luke Highlands back in the number 10 jersey. Spencer Cope in at scrum half. Angus Wheeler, who was also impressive in that game against Burnage, he's there in the back row. Brett Pike, the player coach, he's in as well. Outside centre this time. He's been at 10, he's been at 13, he's been at 15. Proper utility back. Craig McGee also pops into the side in the second row to give them a little bit of beef up front. Whilst they did play well in that game against Burnage a fortnight ago, I'm going to think they might struggle here at Birkenhead Park. Birkenhead Park is one of the 5 teams up at the top end of this table that are looking like they're going to be challenging for promotion at the business end of the season, and I think they're just going to be a little bit too strong for Douglas. Douglas aren't, in my view at least, in danger of relegation. They did have a checkered start, but it remains to be seen because some of the other clubs around them at the bottom end of the table, they've played these guys up at the top already. The league table starting to take shape now. Douglas looking like they're going to be away from the relegation area. Birkenhead Park, though, very much at the business end, and this away game going to be a tough one. I suspect we're going to see a Birkenhead Park win. Vagabonds, by contrast, in Counties ADM, Lancashire, Cheshire, Division 4, they've got what on paper at least is a slightly easier game. They travel away to Blackpool, kick off over there at 2:30 p.m. Blackpool are bottom of the table. Vagabonds in third place at the moment. Leaders don't play this weekend, that's Colne and Nelson. Vaggers could take a jump ahead of the second place side away at Birchfield on Saturday, so that's a potential banana skin. Vaggers could leapfrog them then if they can pick up maximum points at Blackpool. Now, Blackpool have struggled. I think they played 3, lost 3. Vaggers played 5, won 3, lost 2. The playing record, there's big gaps between them. I suspect that we're going to see a Vagabonds win here. If they've got any ambition at all at climbing out of Division 4, they have to win these away games against the bottom sides. They missed Dan Bonwick in their last game. Bonwick out with a head injury. He's very influential in the 10 jersey. I would know he was replaced by Rhys McAllister, who did a sterling job, but you want Bonwick in your team. We reckon he's probably worth about 10 points a match. He's recovered from his knock. He should be there to take the field. Also in that back row, Mark Oldfield, him and Bonwick worked well together at Ramsey when they played together down there before they moved to Vagabonds. McAllister dropped to fullback, and maybe Cam Finley back out onto his wing berth again. He's done reasonably well there. The Vaggers forwards been winning everything so far this season. Their scrum and line out has been very, very good. A decent set piece, a bit of pace in your back line, and they're going to be far too good, I suspect, for Blackpool. Domestically, just one game in the Ravenscroft Manx Shield. It's Ramsey against the Isle of Man Barbarians. Barbarians, it's a collaboration between players who are with clubs who either don't have games or don't have sufficient players for a second team. We know that Douglas and Vagabonds, both playing away, aren't going to be taking massive squads with them. They're only allowed 3 replacements, so any spare players from those two sides can certainly get stuck in here. Southern Nomads, Castletown, Western Vikings all don't have games this weekend. Kick-off at 2:15 at the Mirrock Park. Ramsey have named a reasonably strong side. They've tried to favour the players who wouldn't normally get to play in the red and black shirt. Dave Keenan, for example, going to pack down at number 8. I think Dave there at number 8 will give the Ramsey back row a tremendous amount of experience. There's a couple of key players in there. Jake Richmond gets the nod again. Joey Callow gets the nod again. So those guys with a little bit more first-team experience will help lead the way for the side. But it should be an interesting game. Much depends on what sort of side the Barbarians bring down with them.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight in hockey, and all eyes turn back to the Cup competitions on Saturday, with teams just one result away from booking their place in one of the finals in December. The semi-finals of the Mixed Cup, Mixed Plate and Mixed Bowl all take place across the island from tomorrow morning and through the afternoon. So who may be destined to get one step closer to silverware for this campaign? To find out, I caught up once more with our hockey correspondent, Ben Cunningham. We start with the top-tier cup competition, the Mixed Cup, 2 semi-finals, both taking place at the NSC. We'll start with the earliest pushback at 12:35, and that sees Valkyrie up against Castletown Celts, Ben.
Yeah, this one will be really close. These two have met in the league, and when they met in the league, Valkyries just pipped Castletown 1-0. So this game's got a lot riding on it. However, both these teams suffered defeats midweek in the mixed league. So I'm going to say this one might go to Flicks. OK, and the other cup semi-final, that's straight after at the NSC, a 2:05 pushback, and it's the meeting of two old rivals as well, Vikings A and Backers A. I say it's great to see this one in the semi-finals. This I thought would have been the final, but it's the game that's come up in the semi-finals. These two, when they met, they drew 3-3, but Backers had to come back from being 3-0 down to get 3-3 to Vikings A. This one will be a close one. I think Backers might just get it, but I might say this one goes to Flicks as well.
Very well. Let's move into the semi-finals of the mixed plate, and the earliest of those starts is 11:05 pushback at the NSC. It's the meeting of the bottom two sides in Division 1 as Valkyries C play Castletown Camags, Ben.
It's like you say, these two are bottom of Division 1. Castletown Camags are bottom. Valkyries C are second from bottom. Valkyries C, though, coming into this on a better run than Castletown Camags, so I'm going to go for a Valkyries C win there.
And in the other mixed plate semi-final, it's the meeting of the top two sides in Mixed Division 1, and that is at 12:35 at QE2 in Peel, and that sees Valkyries B up against the Division 1 leaders, Castletown Southerners.
And when these two met in the league, Castletown Southerners just came out winners 1-0 against Valkyries B. Both these teams are looking really strong, but Southerners are top of Division 1, but there's nothing saying that Valkyries B could throw up a surprise here in this plate semi-final. But I'm going to go for a Castletown Southerners win, but I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to Flicks.
And then we move on to the semi-finals of the mixed bowl competition. The first of those at 11:05 on Saturday, also at QE2 in Peel, and that sees Valkyries D up against the mixed Division 2 leaders, Vikings D.
All the fixtures in this cup competition for the semi-finals look really close and really competitive. Valkyries D, though, coming into this game on the back of 3 losses, all by 1 goal. Vikings D have been looking really good this season, and absolutely commanding going forward and scoring plenty of goals. I'm going to go for a Vikings D win.
And in the other mixed bowl semi-final, that's at 2:05 up in the north of the island at Ramsey Grammar School, and two sides this season who have shown brilliance at times, maybe not too regularly this season, but a chance maybe to still be chasing silverware. It's Bacchus Colts up against Ramsey Ravens.
Both these teams, as you've said, have had pretty much the same season. I'm going to go for a Ramsey Ravens win on this one.
And last but certainly not least, after 2 weekends without fixtures because of the half-term break, the Mixed Under-15s League returns with 4 fixtures this Saturday.
First one in that league, 12:35 at Castle Rushen High School, and that sees Backers Under-15s B against Castletown Sabres. And then the next one is at 2:05 at Castle Rushen High School, and that's Castletown Sharks against Vikings. 2:05 at QE2, we have Valkyries against Harlequins. And 12:35 at Ramsey Grammar School, we have Ramsey Rogues and Rascals against Backers Under-15s A.
Well, that's all we have time for on Friday Sport Preview this evening. Many thanks, as always, to my guests this week, Tony Mepham, Dave Christian and Ben Cunningham. Have yourself a wonderful Friday evening and a wonderful weekend, as always. Chris Kinley is here with you next, but from me, until next time, it's bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.